When the millionaire got home early, he saw something brutal that left him in tears forever. The grand entrance of the mansion loomed like a scene from a movie, but today it offered no comfort. The ornate doors creaked open, revealing a world flipped upside down. The smell of gunpowder hung thick in the air, wrapping itself around him like a heavy shroud. Something was dreadfully wrong. An icy grip seized Michael's heart. It was supposed to be an ordinary Tuesday, a day he'd left the office early to surprise Angela, his beloved wife. But as he stepped inside, each creak of the floorboards echoed like a warning. Shadows flickered across the walls, and the silence was deafening. The chandelier overhead, a dazzling web of crystals, hung there mocking him with its shimmering elegance while chaos spun wildly below it. A voice high-pitched and terrified broke the stillness. It was his wife's, but it was strained like the snapping of a taut rope. "Michael!" she called, each syllable quivering on the edge of panic. He raced deeper into the house, his heart pounded against his ribs, anxiety coursing through him like fire. What he found in the living room was unimaginable. A scene splattered with crimson. The carpet, once pristine, was marred with an unsettling stain. Angela knelt on the ground, her eyes wide with horror, as though nature itself had twisted apart. In front of her lay their beloved dog, Max, motionless and cold. A weight pulled Michael down as if gravity had turned against him. His chest tightened, a lump forming in his throat, choking on disbelief. But there was something even more disturbing. An envelope lay open nearby, its edges singed, suggesting it had been tossed down in haste. His fingers trembled as he scooped it up, a deep dread pooling in his stomach. What secrets did it hold? What darkness had invaded their lives? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But the question that hung heavy in the air was unanswered. Who had done this? As his gaze flicked back to Angela, her face paled as realization hit she was hiding something. Her shaking hands clutched another crumpled piece of paper. Was it another letter? A message from a threat? Michael felt the walls closing in. Suddenly, the plush comfort of their home felt like a cage, and the reality of their idyllic life shattered like glass. Michael's heart raced. What elaborate web of deceit was woven around them? Was this just the beginning of a nightmare? The tension crackled, amplifying the questions that spiraled in his mind. There was no turning back now. Michael's gaze darted between the envelope in his hand and the one Angela clutched, desperation clawing at him. The room pulsed with a sinister energy, and he fought to steady his breath. "Angela, what happened? Why is Max?" His voice strained, but he needed answers. Her eyes were wild, glistening with tears that held back the floodwater of grief. "I don't know. It all happened so fast." The panic in her voice sent another wave of chills through him. "I found him like this." He stepped closer, his heart shattering the more he looked at her. The fragility of their world now crumbled. "Then what's that?" He pointed to the paper in her hand, urging her with a trembling voice. She hesitated, her mind racing, then finally opened it. It's a letter." Angela's voice cracked, each word a shard of glass. "A warning. From someone dangerous." Michael's stomach turned with rage and confusion. What kind of warning? He lunged forward and snatched the crumpled paper from her hand. A single word jumped out: payback. The letter seemed to blur as he fought to process the implications. Who would wish to harm their family? And why? Angela's voice broke the trance. "Michael, I didn't want you to find out this way. I thought I could keep you safe." "Safe from what?" Anguish filled every syllable, the strain in his voice betraying his disbelief. They know about our money. Our success." Angela stepped back, her eyes wide with fear. "They think we've taken something that belongs to them." Confusion hit him like a physical blow. This doesn't make sense. Michael, I got involved with some people I shouldn't have. They threatened me to repay a debt. You were what? He interrupted, anger mounting. You wanted to protect me? Your secrets have put us in danger. She buried her face in her hands, and the sobs racked her body. Michael wanted to comfort her, to soothe this gaping wound, but there was a rift forming between them, a chasm of betrayal, doubt, and fear. A sudden noise broke through the tension, a faint scratching at the door. Michael's heart leaped. What was that? He moved toward the sound, each step heavy with dread. He could feel Angela's eyes on him, wide with terror, a silent plea to stop. The wind howled outside, rattling the mansion's windows like a dark omen. He turned the doorknob slowly, bracing himself for whatever awaited him on the other side. The door creaked open, revealing nothing but empty night. The world outside was swallowed by darkness. But then a glint of light caught his attention, a flicker. A car headlight moving slowly up the driveway. His mind raced, the pieces of this horrifying puzzle falling into place. But the conclusion was unbearable. Angela, we're not safe. Not here. We need to leave now. Before they could make a plan, another jolt of horror gripped him as he spotted movement by the window. A shadow, tall, looming, standing vigil. His blood ran cold. They were being watched. Michael. Angela's voice trembled, panic creeping back in. Who is it? His resolve met the walls of fear pressing on him. The shadows whispered secrets, and the weight of danger loomed larger than before. There was no turning back. But just then, a loud bang cracked through the air, shaking the very foundation of their home. What had they awakened, and would they survive the night? Michael's heart raced as the thunder of the bang echoed through the hallway. A lingering silence followed, heavy and oppressive, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. He could feel the weight of Angela's fear pressing down on him, that palpable energy building like a storm about to break. Get back! He shouted, instinct kicking in as he moved to the side, positioning himself between Angela and the door. Every instinct told him to protect her, to shield her from whatever came next. The shadows outside shifted, morphing into trembling specters under the light of the headlights from the car. Angela's fingers gripped his arm, her nails digging in as her breaths became frantic. What do we do? Michael, please. Stay quiet, he said, lowering his voice, every ounce of urgency tightening his tone. The night was thick and murky, swallowing sound like a hungry beast. He strained to make out any further noise, but all he could hear was the soft thud of his heart pounding in his ears. Another sound broke the stillness, a low creak from the back of the house. The intrusion felt like ice water running down his spine. We need to check if anyone is inside, he said, making the call reluctantly. Are you insane? Angela's whisper was almost a plea. We can just hide. But Michael's mind was racing. They had to know, they had to understand what was happening. He couldn't afford to let fear dictate their next moves, not now. Get the phone, call the police if you can. Try to keep it quiet, he instructed, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling inside him. He turned, edging toward the hallway that led deeper into the house. Every step felt like a betrayal of their safety. He wanted to sprint toward the door, toward escape. But there was something far more sinister at work. They had been called out, they had been warned. He had to find out who or what was coming for them. As he crept forward, the soft glow of the headlights outside illuminated a figure standing just beyond the doorway leading to the kitchen. Just as Michael's breath caught in his throat, the door swung open. A tall figure emerged, cloaked in shadow, a presence so foreboding that Michael felt the breath seize in his chest. The silhouette stepped into the beam of the headlights that snuck through the grimy windows, revealing a mask of cold indifference etched on their face. The glint of a weapon hidden behind their back flashed in the light for just a split second. Looking for someone? The voice was low, dripping with menace, sending chills whispering down Michael's spine. He could feel Angela's presence dimming behind him like a candle flickering out. She was terrified and so was he. But in that moment, a sudden rush of adrenaline flooded him, igniting every reflex trained for moments of danger. There was no time to think. Angela, run! He shouted, and without a second thought, he lunged toward the intruder. The shock of that move rang loudly in his ears, but there was no turning back. His fists clenched, ready for a confrontation that could decide the fate of their lives. But just as Michael charged forward, the assailant pulled out the weapon, A glimmering object catching the light. Was it a knife? A gun? Time froze as Michael's mind processed the horror unfolding. But just before they collided, that familiar flicker from the car's headlights illuminated the room. In that instant everything changed. He froze, dread tightening around him like a vice. Angela gasped. What had they gotten themselves into? There was more at stake here than they could have ever imagined. The night was far from over, and all he could think was, what next? The unexpected flicker of light seemed to suspend time itself. Michael's heart hammered violently in his chest as he caught sight of the menacing figure, frozen in place with their weapon poised. Angela's gasp echoed like thunder, ringing in his ears, pulling him back from the brink of his reckless charge. In that brief moment of clarity, the intruder's eyes turned toward the sound, dark and hollow behind the mask. They analyzed Michael with cold detachment, as if weighing the options. Was he just another obstacle, or did they see him as a threat? Let her go, Michael shouted, the command bursting forth from the depths of his fear-fueled courage. He could feel his palms sweating, the grip on his own consciousness slipping. The masked figure chuckled softly, a sound that crept under his skin and set his nerves alight. No one is going anywhere. Their voice twisted through the air like a serpent, the threat coiling tighter with each syllable. Michael's instincts screamed at him to retreat. As he weighed his options, a thunderous crash erupted from somewhere behind him, sending shockwaves of panic racing through his veins. Angela! Stay back! He yelled, darting toward the sound. But the moment froze like a still photograph, the air thick with tension, faces frozen in horror. The intruder advanced, a predatory smile flickering beneath the mask, eyes glinting with a sick anticipation. Do you really think you can protect her? Time resumed as the intruder lunged forward, and Michael didn't think. He just moved. He dove to the side, feeling the rush of air displace past him as the weapon swung dangerously close. It wasn't a knife. It glinted with the reflection of the headlights like a gun, dark and foreboding. The clash of steel rang against the ground as Michael shoved the figure aside, a sudden burst of instincts guiding his actions. He felt rage and desperation surge, sharper than any blade. Angela's terrified cries bled into the chaos, urging him to fight harder, run faster, do anything to protect her. Michael! Her voice quaked, drenched in despair. He turned, catching a glimpse of her framed in the doorway, eyes wide with fear as she clutched the phone against her chest. A wave of determination surged through him. She was not just a witness, she was his reason to keep fighting. Get out! He shouted back, urging her toward safety. Get to the car. The assailant's laughter echoed, dark and taunting. You think you can escape? You don't even know who I am, or what I want. The adrenaline coursing through Michael's veins propelled him forward once more as he grappled with the figure. Everything was a blur, movements fractured and electric. But in the fray, the truth slipped like sand through his fingers. What do you want? Michael growled, struggling to contain the intruder's hold. What did we ever do to you? But the only answer was a tightening grip on the weapon, a promise of violence. The chilling laughter resonated once more, reverberating in the hollow corners of his resolve. With a final desperate push, Michael managed to break free, catching a fleeting glimpse of Angela making her escape. Their eyes locked for just a heartbeat, a shared moment of terror and hope before she disappeared into the night. He knew he had to make a choice. It was better to face the menace before him than let that figure hunt down the only person who mattered. Let her go, he demanded again, fighting to steady his breath. The shadowy figure halted, tilting their head like a predator sizing up its prey. It's not over yet. You're about to discover just how deep this rabbit hole goes. As the words hung heavy in the air between them, dread settled in Michael's gut, a foreboding whisper of what was yet to come. What had Angela stumbled into? How entwined were their fates in this dark game of hide and seek? He was determined to find out. Michael's blood pounded in his ears, drowning out everything else. He stood ready, fists clenched, every muscle tensed and ready to spring into action. The dark figure slowly lowered the weapon, a shimmering blade casting ominous reflections in the pale light. For a fleeting moment, the intruder's icy gaze met his. You don't get it, do you? The masked figure said, their voice dripping with malicious delight. This is bigger than you, bigger than her. Bigger. The word echoed ominously in Michael's mind. He glanced back toward the path Angela had taken, every instinct screaming for him to flee with her, but there was no turning back now. What do you mean? He spat, forcing the words through clenched teeth. What do you want from us? A laugh resonated from the figure as they took a step closer, the knife glinting as if it had a life of its own. You're in over your head. You think this is about her? The question hung like a guillotine. This is just the beginning, Michael. You think escaping me will solve your problems? Think again. The truth crashed onto Michael like a wave, the weight of reality sinking in. They weren't just wronged. They were pawns in a dangerously complex game. And what happened next would determine everything. Suddenly, sirens pierced the air, distant but growing closer, slicing through the haunting tension. Michael's heart raced anew as he looked toward the gunmetal sky, knowing they wouldn't be alone for long. Keep quiet or she pays the price, the intruder warned, stepping even closer. Tension hung thick between them, an electric charge sizzling through the air. But Michael wouldn't back down. You're bluffing, he said, forcing confidence into his voice. But doubt gnawed at him. He could feel it creeping in, hungry and relentless. The figure's smile widened, a chilling sight obscured by the mask. Am I? Just remember, you don't know the game yet. Without warning, the intruder lunged, and Michael barely managed to dodge the strike. He felt the rush of air as the blade sliced through the space where he had just stood, adrenaline surging through him. Fueled by desperation, he grabbed for anything around him, a metal pipe discarded on the floor. As his fingers tightened around its cool surface, he felt a flicker of resolve ignite within. You're not going to take her from me, he shouted, swinging the pipe with determination. The blow connected hard. The masked figure staggered back, their grip on the weapon faltered, and for the first time they showed signs of vulnerability. That moment felt like a victory, but just as quickly, the intruder regained their composure, their voice low and cruel. You think you can stop me? You really have no idea what's at stake, do you? In the chaos of the confrontation, a shadow shifted at the edge of the light. A figure appeared, unfamiliar and ominous, bearing dark intentions. Michael barely had time to react as the unmistakable sound of another weapon being cocked echoed through the night. No! He screamed, panic clawing at his throat. Before he could fully comprehend the danger, he felt a sharp pain slice through his side. The force knocked him to the ground, vision blurring as he crashed into the concrete. He gasped, fighting against unconsciousness, knowing this wasn't just a fight for survival but for Angela's life as well. The new figure approached slowly, a wicked grin framing their mouth. So this is how it ends? With dimming vision, Michael's thoughts whirled in a vortex of terror. What was this even about? Who were these people? Whispers from chaos danced in his fading mind, words barely audible. And then just like that the world darkened in the next moment. A familiar voice broke through the haze, shocking him back to awareness. Michael! Angela was back, her voice filled with urgency. And then the figure was behind her, weapon raised. Angela, no? He croaked, a desperate plea escaping his lips as darkness threatened to claim him once again. Would it be too late to save her? Had he failed to protect the one person who meant everything? The question pulsed in his mind as the ground shifted beneath him, the world tilting into chaos. What choices would lead to their escape? And what horrors lay in the shadows waiting to unfold? The world snapped back into focus as Michael fought to clear his mind, shadows receding to reveal a scene frozen in horror. Angela stood just a few paces ahead, her body rigid, eyes wide with panic, while the intruder loomed behind her, weapon raised. Time felt like molasses, stretching each second into eternity. Angela, please. Michael croaked, his voice fragmented by pain. He pushed against the cold ground, muscles screaming, desperate to rise. He didn't know how much strength he had left, but he would not let them win. Michael, stay down. Angela shouted, her voice breaking. She took a step back, eyes darting between him and the masked figure. You can't protect her, the newcomer sneered, advancing casually, like a predator toying with its prey. You both have no idea what forces you've unleashed. Michael's breath came in ragged gasps. He could feel the blood soaking his shirt, warm and sticky, a primal reminder of his own mortality. What do you want? He spat, squaring his jaw, defiance igniting his words. The figure only laughed, a sound devoid of warmth, resonating with madness. Control, they said, cocking their weapon with a deliberate slowness, the sound sharp, echoing in Michael's head. This isn't just a game, dear boy. This is survival. And you both are merely pieces on the board. Angela's gaze flickered to Michael, fear and determination mingling in her eyes. We have to get out of here, she whispered urgently, her voice steadying. Please, Michael, he nodded, though panic clawed at the edges of his resolve. The sirens were closer now, a siren's wail gathering momentum. They were almost here, salvation hovering just out of reach. Yet even the thought of escape felt insubstantial against the darkness closing in. Run! He shouted, his voice raw. He forced himself to rise, every movement igniting pain like wildfire. He reached for her, finger trembling, but before he could close the distance, the intruder smirked, taking a step forward, forcing Angela to back away. Make a sound and she gets a bullet, the masked figure warned, eyes glinting with malice. And you think I'll just let you take her? Michael challenged, heart racing. His fears felt tangible, moving like a living thing wrapping around him. Hope felt distant. Yet the connection with Angela anchored him. In that moment, something shifted. The air thickened, tension ratcheting to a breaking point, and Michael realized they all had something to lose, but he had everything to fight for. The moment hung, fraught with unspoken threats, until Angela spoke again, voice breaking through the silence. Michael, we're stronger together. We must fight this. The intruder's patience waned, and Michael could sense it. Caught in a terrifying limbo, he glanced at Angela, her face lit with fierce determination radiating hope despite their dire circumstances. Now! Michael yelled, instincts kicking in. He sprinted, his body running on a mix of adrenaline and sheer will, aiming directly for Angela. But in that split second, a shot rang out, shattering the stillness like glass. Michael felt the world shatter around him, collapsing into a spiral of chaos. A loud gasp escaped Angela's lips, and in that moment between breaths, the horror of it all slammed down on him. As disbelief and dread flooded his mind, he felt the force of something hitting him, pain splashing through him like ice. He seemingly slowed down, the world spinning and spiraling out of control. The final screams of Angela echoed in his ears, but the light in her eyes began to dim. Angela! He screamed just as darkness threatened to swallow him whole again. Had it been too late? Would he awaken from this nightmare? Or would he remain trapped in this hell forever? As the pulsating chaos consumed them, Michael realized the game was far from over. The shadows were intent on claiming their pieces, and the next move could change everything or cost them all. What sinister forces loomed in the darkness, waiting for their moment to strike? And would Michael and Angela have the strength to fight back before it was too late? Michael gasped as his vision blurred in and out of focus, the edges of the world fraying like a worn-out film reel. His heart thundered in his chest, a frantic drumbeat against the encroaching darkness. Just a moment ago, everything had erupted into chaos. That gunshot had ripped through the air, echoing like a death knell. But now silence seeped through the cracks of his mind, heavy and suffocating. Angela, he croaked again, voice barely a whisper, fear clawing at him like barbed wire. He couldn't feel anything below his waist. The pain of the shot, a distant agony, gained through the shroud of numbness enveloping him. Shifting his gaze, he searched for her, desperate to find the flicker of her spirit still alight. But all he could see was the shadow of the intruder, their form still hovering, watching, preparing for their next move. The adrenaline surged back into him, flooding his senses. I'll kill you if you hurt her, he shouted, anger breaking through the veneer of pain as despair tried to drag him under. Each word clawed its way from his throat, a roar against the encroaching darkness. Such fierce loyalty, the intruder taunted, their voice dripping with derision. But loyalty won't save her. It just makes you more appealing as a target. They took another sadistic step forward, the weapon still aimed squarely at Angela. Michael forced himself to instinctively roll away, wincing against the searing pain, trying to shield her with what little strength remained. As if on cue, the sirens blared closer, a distant potential salvation. He could barely hold on to hope, but just the thought of potential rescue whispered softly in the frantic corners of his mind. Angela bit her lip, her eyes darting between her captor and Michael. Please, this can end. Her voice was steady, commanding even in fear. We can talk. You don't have to do this. Michael couldn't believe it. How could she stand there and negotiate, showing a strength he felt he didn't possess? But before he could process further, the intruder shook their head slowly, a cruel smile contorting their features. "You're right, this can end. But not in the way you think." With that, they leaned closer to Angela, whispering something Michael couldn't catch. Every cell in Michael's body tensed. "Stop. I'll do whatever you want. Just let her go." "No, this isn't just about you, dear boy. This is a game, and games require sacrifices." With a flick of their wrist, a glint of metal caught the moonlight. Fear gripped Michael, visceral primal dread rushing through him, tightening around his throat. "Make the next move count," the intruder said, glancing back at him. "The clock is ticking." In that heart-stopping moment, the world narrowed down to the three of them, Michael on the ground, bleeding and weak, Angela, the light of his life, standing defiant, and the dark figure that threatened to extinguish it all. But then, just as despair threatened to steal him away, a siren screamed outside, and in that cacophony, Michael felt an ember of hope ignite within him. With a surge of adrenaline, Michael forced himself back to his feet, his body screaming in protest but unwilling to back down. "Angela! On the count of 3, run!" Before he could count, the intruder turned fully towards him, anger flashing in their eyes. "You really think you can intimidate me? Think again." The urgency stung, electrifying the air between them, and in that moment fate opened its hand, leaving Michael with a path to navigate. Behind him, sirens echoed louder. Would salvation burst forth from the chaos, or would they only spark greater horrors? As the tension thickened, Michael realized that the next seconds could either bind them together, or wrench them apart forever. In that split second, the weight of Angela's fate hung between them, thick as smoke. Michael's mind raced. The intruder's eyes blazed, but their expression morphed from anger to twisted amusement. They rolled their shoulders back and chuckled, a dark sound that sent shivers down Michael's spine. "Really, boy? You think you have the kind of power to save her?" Their voice sliced through the air, cruel and cold. Angela's eyes widened, a flicker of fear breaking through her bravado, and it gutted Michael. "Let her go," he spat, his voice raw, desperation igniting something primal deep within. The sirens were near, he could almost sense them bursting through the door to deliver justice in a thunderous wave. But time felt elastic, stretching painfully as the figure toyed with the moment, clearly reveling in the control they wielded. The intruder took a slow step back, a mocking bow flourishing with flourish. "Listen to you. A brave little knight, believing in gallant rescues. But gallantry means nothing when the stakes are high." They could barely contain their glee as they gestured toward the open door. "What will you do? Make a move, I dare you." In that moment, Angela broke from her shock. "Michael! Count!" She stepped slightly forward, determination sparking in her gaze, and for a heartbeat, she stood between them like a shield, a beacon against the darkness threatening to envelop them. "1!" Michael roared, feeling the surge of adrenaline pulse through him like liquid fire. He could feel the ground beneath him as if it were giving way, the countdown anchoring him even as dread swirled around them. "Do it!" Angela shouted, voice strong, her fierce courage brightening the bleakness of the scene. 2. Michael continued, heart racing, each number a rallying cry in his head. He felt himself teetering on the edge of both fear and resolve, fueled by the need to protect her, to love fiercely even in the face of overwhelming odds. 3. Time froze. The intruder's eyes flared wide with disbelief, but Michael lunged. Pain shot through him, but it was just background noise echoing against his singular focus. Even as he stumbled, he pushed himself forward, a fighter bent on claiming the impossible moment. Angela bolted behind him, a silent prayer that she would be safe. Michael felt terror grip at him but pushed it away, every step a testament to strength and a pledge to protect her at all costs. But the intruder was quicker. In an instant they redirected their weapon, aiming it directly at Michael, an effortless flick of the wrist too swift for him to react to. The world unspooled. The sound of the gunshot rang out again, louder, crueler, a sickening echo stabbing into his consciousness. In that heartbeat the sirens blared louder, an impending rescue colliding with suffocating despair. Everything around him blurred, the floor, the walls, the twisted face of the figure who sought to extinguish the last flicker of hope. Michael staggered, rushing forward as darkness threatened to swallow him whole. And then silence fell. The air thickened like molasses, dread entangled with disbelief. What had just happened? He felt warmth spilling around him, thick and red, drowning him in the reality he didn't want to face, the choice he had made burning like acid in his veins. Angela was all he could whisper, desperate and broken, his vision blurring again. But just as he fell, he locked eyes with her. Fear, confusion, and unyielding strength suffused every glance. Was it over? Had he failed her? And for a heartbeat, that question unspooled into the night, as shadows danced around them, promising more to come. Would rescue arrive in time? Or had they unwittingly walked into a far grimmer fate? The blurred lines of hope and despair threatened to collapse as the world descended into uncertainty. Michael's world spun, a kaleidoscope of confusion and dread. The warmth spreading from his wound was oddly familiar, like a cruel reminder of his own heartbeat fading. Each thud a countdown to the end. He could see Angela, her face twisted in horror, the very embodiment of hope and fear in a storm. Michael! Her voice broke through the haze like glass shattering. She lunged toward him, but the intruder was quicker, their laughter slicing through the silence. You think this is a moment for heroics? They taunted, their eyes glinting with malevolence. Angela hesitated, confusion flooding her features. Stay back! She yelled, her voice bold but trembling. It was a protective instinct, something primal kicking in as she tried to gauge the next move. Such a valiant yet futile effort, the intruder mused, stepping closer, the weapon still aimed at Michael. It was as if every word dripped with venom, taunting him while pushing Angela further to the brink. Tell me, what are you hoping for? A miracle? The sirens wailed louder now, reverberating off the walls like a hungry beast on the hunt. But time felt like an elastic band, stretching itself thin, suffocating as Michael lay bleeding, each breath a battle. Michael! Angela knelt beside him, her trembling fingers brushing against his wound, panic flashing in her eyes. Stay with me. Stay awake. He tried to smile, though it hurt like hell. You're so brave, he managed, the words slipping out like the warmth pooling around him. But already the edges of his vision were darkening, swallowing him whole. No, you can't leave me. Not like this. Her desperation pulled him back for just a moment, tethering him to the present. He clung to her words, a lifeline in a tornado. For Michael murmured, though he could barely hold on to the number, knowing what it represented, the relentless march toward rescue or ruin. Stop counting. Focus on me, Angela pleaded, shaking his shoulders gently, desperation clinging to her every word. But the intruder stepped closer, reveling in the chaos, enjoying the unfolding tragedy. How poetic. Watching your love slip away while you linger in futile hope. They gestured grandly as if putting on a show. Let us see how long the night can endure this little game. Michael could taste copper as the throbbing pain grew more intense, clouding everything. The countdown was everything, his last barrier against the dark. 5. He whispered, each number a shard digging deeper, each breath a testament to the fight within. No, Angela shouted, tears shimmering in her eyes. Help is coming, I swear. Just hold on. But the intruder laughed, low and mocking. Do you really think they'll save you in time? This is your end, boy. They shifted their gaze, considering the scene with morbid satisfaction. And your little light? Their eyes narrowed on Angela. She'll be left alone in a world you couldn't protect her from. A gust of wind whipped through the doorway, carrying the sirens with it, the flicker of red and blue lights spilling into the room. Hope entwined with dread. Would they reach him? He looked at Angela, determination glittering through her fear. Angela, but feelings slipped away like grains of sand, and darkness licked at his consciousness as she gripped his hand tighter, their intertwined fingers igniting a spark between them. The sounds outside clamored to a deafening crescendo. But before she could respond, the intruder raised their weapon again, a twisted smile on their face. Let us see what happens next, shall we? The final moment hung in the air, a heartbeat caught between reality and nightmare. Would the light of rescue break the spell? Or would the darkness triumph as fate played its cruel hand? Michael's mind clouded, reality slipping through his fingers like sand. He could still hear Angela's voice, urgent and desperate, cutting through the chaos. Don't leave me, Michael. Her plea wrapped around his heart, tightening like a vice, pulling him back from the edge of oblivion. Just as the intruder seemed poised to strike, a loud crash echoed from the front door, police officers bursting in, guns drawn, voices booming. Get on the ground. Hands where we can see them. The intruder's eyes darted, the distraction breaking their focus for just a moment. With sheer disbelief, Michael felt a flicker of hope ignite deep within him. Angela's eyes widened with relief, but the intruder quickly realigned, a fierce rage flashing across their face. "You think you can win this fight?" they hissed, their malice sharper than the weapon they brandished. "Angela, get back!" Michael shouted, panic rising in him once again. He forced his weakening body to move, twisting to protect her even more. But the searing pain shot through him, anchoring him to the ground. The officers took their positions, all shouting in unison, "Drop your weapon." The tension crackled in the air, each heartbeat pounding like a drum in Michael's ears. For a moment Michael wished for a superhuman strength, but all he had was love, the feeling that tethered him to Angela, that ignited a fire in his chest. The intruder hesitated, eyes flicking between the officers and Michael, still grappling with their weapon. There was a beat of silence, one thick with a primal tension where everything hung in the balance. "You think you can take her from me?" The intruder seethed, voice low and furious. Michael's resolve ignited. "Let her go," he gasped, each word a battle, a flame fighting against the encroaching darkness. "Drop the weapon," shouted a police officer, taking a step closer, finger hovering over the trigger. But just then the intruder laughed, a dark sound that sent shivers down Michael's spine. "There's no escape. You're all doomed." A single shot rang out, the world slowed as Michael felt the shockwave ripple through the room. The intruder staggered, their weapon clattering to the floor. Shouts erupted around them as they fell to the ground, a dark figure collapsing into the shadows. "No!" Michael cried out, adrenaline surging powerfully, pounding through his veins. "Angela!" Michael pushed through the haze, squinting as Angela rushed to him, her face lit with both fear and relief. "Michael!" she sobbed, her hands cradling his face. "Are you okay?" "I'm bleeding," he managed, voice strained. He could see the stress on her face, the heart-wrenching worry, but behind it was fierceness, strength he had almost forgotten. An officer approached, kneeling beside him, taking in the scene. "Help is here," they said, urgency tinged with reassurance. "Stay with us, sir. We're calling for medical assistance." "Angela, you need to stay safe." His vision began to blur again, the weight of his injury pulling him under. "I can't let them take you." "Can't." "You're going to be okay, Michael. Just hold on." Flashes of red and blue danced in the background, the nightmare slowly unfurling as the intruder was handcuffed, taken away like a broken story finally reaching a conclusion. Michael could hear the sounds of sirens growing closer, a cacophony of life as he focused on Angela, her tears shimmering in the flickering lights. "You're my light," he whispered, choked with emotion, "please don't let it dim." Time seemed to stretch as they locked eyes, a vow exchanged without words. In that haunting moment, they understood each other deeply, pain and hope mingling in the air between them. They had fought together, and though marked by shadows, strength had emerged. As the medics arrived, they worked quickly, urgency folding back into the chaos. "You're gonna be all right," one said, inspecting the wound with care. But Michael's eyes remained on Angela, her spirit pushing through the darkness like a beacon. "AJ, I love you," he breathed, feeling the world tilt, but the love they shared steady in his heart. "I love you too," her fervent response as the medics surrounded him, her voice anchoring him against the tide of fading consciousness. "You're going to make it." And in that moment the darkness faded, the sirens pierced through the chaos, and with everything they had faced, there was one constant: love's unyielding power to pull them back from the brink. This time they wouldn't let go as the night finally began to give way to dawn. Michael's vision dimmed, but the warmth of Angela's hand in his, and the promise of tomorrow whispered in his heart, a tomorrow they would build together, free from the shadows that had haunted them. But the fight for survival always went deeper than that. It meant looking into the future with hope, knowing that they had triumphed over fear, gathering strength from every scar, every challenge faced beside one another. With every breath he took, he reclaimed a part of the life he thought he'd lost, and as darkness began to yield to light, he knew they would face whatever came next together. Don't just watch. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And for the love of the story, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.